and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's another time for a week preview, and this time it's the week of Game 6. With me today, I've got a returning guest. Back with us today is Keg. How are you, mate?
It depends in the context that you're asking. Personally, yeah, brilliant. In team terms, no, not the best. Could be better.
Well, you've got the Bryce Young jersey behind you. You've got the helmet and the hat, so you're still repping a team despite
Of course,
how bad a start it's been. But so you got to, some people could easily jump ship. Or I know a Broncos fan that after our game against him that he was going to watch the NFL for the rest of the year. So it's good that you're sticking with them through the thick and the thin.
It's getting very thin. I can't lie. It's almost at boiling point. But yeah, you roll through. It's like 0-5, 5-0. You've got to stick with your team through the hard and the good times, because the good times will come. I'm sure of it. I'm confident that we've still got a bright future to head forward to. So yeah, got to stick with it.
Exactly, and I think it's one of the sports where you can get punished for being a glory hunter. Patriots fans, that's you right now. But on the flip side, looking at Bills and Chiefs fans right now, they're being, the Chiefs fans especially, being rewarded for years of mediocrity, and Bengals fans the same thing. So, it only takes a few years. I mean, even Dolphins, I know we haven't won anything yet, but we're 4-1. Lions are 4-1, and we have the two longest active playoff win streaks in the NFL, and we could both break that this year. So, yeah, I think it's a great sport for being. You can really be rewarded for being sticking with a bad team. Well, in terms of NFL side of things, you're not the best part of your life right now, but recently, obviously, you got married recently in your personal life.
Yes,
congratulations, first of all. Just how was that, mate?
Appreciate it. It was brilliant. Yeah, it was really good. It was a nice day. Like when it comes to your wedding day, you always think, I want some nice weather. Hope it doesn't rain. But it was maybe a bit too good because it was really hot. Sat there in my suits. I had my Carolina blue jacket on as well. Like I made sure I represented on the wedding day. But yeah, it was boiling. I couldn't wait to get away from it. Like when we're outside taking the photographs and everything outside, like I was just sweating. I was thinking, can I go get a beer yet? I've done my part. Let's get to the bar. I can't stand out here any longer.
Yeah, I did see on your Instagram. I think it was like it was a captioning like "Tell me you're Geordie without being Geordie," and it was, I think, it's Union Mates dance to Sam Fender or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I had to get this something. I made the playlist as well. To be fair, I made the wedding playlist. I had that in the pipeline for months, so made sure I got some Atten Deck and some Jimmy Nail in there. But yeah, Sam Fender, a little bit of local hero, bringing the Newcastle side to it. So yeah, it was a very Geordie wedding.
Anton Deck, I imagine. Well, imagine it was Let's Get Ready to Rumble. I can imagine.
Oh yeah, let's get ready to rumble. Yeah, party starter always.
Right, so we are here to talk all things Week 6 in the NFL. Just a quick recap on scores. We have been a bit lacking the preview content recently. We've had only so far Week 1 and Week 4, but our last one came in Week 4 where David Caproche came on, who I did actually meet on the weekend in the NFL Experience on Saturday. So he got 10 points. He got 10 correct scores. That includes the likes of the Lions beating the Packers, the Bills beating the Dolphins, and other ones including the Titans beating the Bengals. Whereas I got 9. So I picked to things like the Rams beat the Colts, and I picked to things like the Buccaneers beat the Saints, and the Seahawks beat the Giants. So as it stands, with 2 current weeks done prediction-wise, I still lead the way with 11 correct scores for my Week 1 prediction, with David second with his 10 from Week 4, and then Freddie Harper-Davis all the way down in with 8 in third, which is currently our last place position, with 8 from Week 1. So, Keg, you're hoping to beat that. You're hoping to get more than 11 points and hopefully not as less as 8. So how confident are you
fingers crossed.
Score?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I've got some predictions written down, but yeah, I think there's a couple of difficult ones as well. Obviously, we'll go through them, but I think like the Commanders and Falcons, like that'll be a difficult one. Seahawks, Bengals, Saints, Texans. It's still quite early on, and I think like at the beginning of the season, it is quite difficult to tell. Like there's some teams in there that I don't know if they're just struggling or if they are just going to have a bad season, and vice versa. I think some teams are doing better than expected, but is it either they're just riding a wave of momentum, or have they just had some easier teams and they're looking better than they are? So yeah, it's still a little bit rough at the minute. So yeah, it's like the Bills being 3-2. Like I expected a much better year from them. The Bengals as well, like 2-3 now. Yeah, I expected much better from them, but I think that chipping away, I don't know what happened at the beginning of the season. It was a bit of a bad start for them, but I don't think they'll continue. Like they've won they've won 2 out of the last 3. So I think they're getting back to wherever they should be. So yeah, we'll see how it goes on. I think the Vikings as well at 1-4. I don't think the Vikings are 1-4 bad. So yeah, I think they'll start coming on a little bit better soon as well. So yeah, some difficult games to go through, but yeah, we'll get them when we'll come to them.
Yeah, I think the Bengals you're bang on because they're only one win behind the Ravens in the AFC North and one win behind the Steelers as well. So it's for them, I think it's that old saying goes, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I think that
exactly.
for them, I still, right now have them as one of my favourites to win the AFC because Burrow's had his new problems, but if they can get that right and they can make it even as a wildcard team, there's not many teams more, maybe apart from the Chiefs, that I'd back in the playoffs because Joe Burrow has proved, that 2 back-to-back AFC Championship games, 1 Super Bowl appearance, the one they almost won. So he seems to have, sadly for Bills fans, unlike Josh Allen, a real playoff clutch sort of gene. And I think that, if they make it, even if it's a 9-win season, I'd back them more than a 12-win Bills team, back them more than an 11-win Ravens team. I think that they're a team that, when they hit form at the right time, you've got Chase, you've got T. Higgins, you've got Joe Mixon in the backfield, you've got defense, which hasn't been as good this year, but I still back them when it comes to the crucial time when it matters. So I think the Bengals is all about for now just getting there, and even if they have to stumble over the final hurdle. But yeah, I think, and the Vikings same thing. I think they got off these 3 games behind the Lions, but I think that certainly is a wildcard team. This is why I had them as my surprise team the whole season because I think that. Obviously, Jefferson's injury doesn't help, and I think that could be an ultimate season killer. But if they can just get, like a lot of teams, they can get that form right going to playoffs. That's the most important thing. Now you mentioned a few hard games. You're right about Commanders, Falcons, but one game which probably is maybe the easiest game to pick this week is Thursday Night Football, as the Chiefs host the Broncos. For me, very easy, very easy.
Yeah.
Chiefs to win. I don't think it's even worth talking about.
Nah,
it's that easy.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I thought the Broncos would have a bad season. I think everyone was a little bit hyped up about them. I think even more last year because I think I remember coming on your Week 5 preview last year, and you asked me if I was surprised at that bad start, and I said nah because I didn't fancy them last year at all. I think just because they got Russell Wilson in, like pundits and journalists and everyone was asking the question, how far will they go in the playoffs? As if it's a given, as if like that's guaranteed to get in the playoffs. And I was thinking, hang on, they're not that great of a team. Russell Wilson was coming off the worst year of his career, possibly on a downward spiral. And I just didn't fancy them at all. So I feel like I was bang on in my predictions last year. I thought they would be better this year because they've got a pretty good head coach. I like Sean Payton. But it's just still not there, whatever it is at the Broncos. Just nothing really seems to be clicking. So yeah, I'm not really surprised in the slightest. Like, I was surprised how bad you guys whipped them up, like 70 points, man. That's just insane. That the Bears game was a decent game, 31 points to 28. They've been putting some points on the board, to be fair. Put 33 up against the Commanders, 21 against the Jets. So that's something there. But for me, I just, for the last 2 years, I've been adamant that they're just not a great team. And yeah, when you match them up against the Chiefs, I think people thought that the Chiefs were going to have a little bit of a rough season after their Week 1 slip up, but they're back to it now. 4 wins out of the last 4. So yeah, I can see it's been another heavy defeat for the Broncos. Maybe not 70 points heavy, but still pretty bad.
Yeah, and you have to really praise, one of their best players this season, the Chiefs, and the referees. They've really been, playing some excellent stuff with the Chiefs right now. I mean, that Vikings game, some of the calls in that game is just, there was the Jets game the week before, there were some dodgy calls as well. And who could forget the game against the Eagles in Arizona, Super Bowl 57, and it does make you wonder. The referees have been a bit favourable towards the Chiefs recently, but and the Broncos. Go back to the Broncos. I mean, we talked about it before about people being rewarded for supporting bad teams. I mean, I imagine there'd been a lot of people, maybe more in the UK than anywhere else, or maybe even Germany as well, where they would have watched that Super Bowl against you guys, see the Broncos win it, and go, right, that's my team. They've not made a single playoff appearance since that Super Bowl. It's crazy.
What a shame. Devastated for you.
Yeah, no, it's I think anyone who did pick the Broncos purely off that game, that is what you get, and you should learn not
Exactly.
to do that again for any
Sucker.
other sport. Right, heading on to our Sunday slate and the final lot of our London games as the Ravens take on the Titans. Now, for me, I found this the hardest one to pick. Now, I did pick the Jags last week, and the Jags, I believe, the week before as well. So I'm 2 from 2 in our predictions so far on that. But this one I found the hardest to call. I think both
Yeah.
teams are fairly even, both showing a little bit of inconsistency. But what I'm going for, purely for the team who's arrived earliest, so I'm going for the Ravens to win this one.
Right. I agree with the Ravens. Coming into the season, I really like the Titans. I really like Tennessee. But yeah, coming into the season, I just didn't really fancy them at all. I think Derrick Henry was just their standout. They traded quite late on for DeAndre Hopkins, so I thought maybe there's a little bit of something extra there. Then you've got like Simmons and a couple of decent defensive players, but I don't know. I just didn't really fancy the Titans at all coming into the season. I thought they were going to struggle. Ravens, on the other hand, I don't think the Ravens are as good as a team as what everyone makes out to be, but they're still like a 12-win team quite easily. They're like a 12-5 type team, no problem really. With a guy like Lamar Jackson who can just run everybody off the field. They're always in there. As things stand at the minute, Ravens 3-2, Titans 2-3. Not too dissimilar. I think both showing massive inconsistencies. I think it is a very, very tough one to call, as you say. But yeah, I do think the Ravens have the better roster. Probably a better. I don't know about a better coach. Maybe a better coach. I think that's pretty tough. But yeah, I think just the Ravens just tip it for me.
I don't know whether you saw today, Lamar Jackson just walking around London, just on his Instagram, just walking around
I've seen some people getting some selfies with him, yeah, but yeah, I
yeah.
didn't realize he was just cruising around London by himself.
Yeah, friend of the show, George on Sports, got a selfie with him earlier today, and I
Yeah,
think,
I think that's who I've seen. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I don't know how he managed that, but that's pretty cool. And
yeah.
speaking of this game, actually, the podcast will be on Friday at the Titans press conference. So looking forward to bringing you more content on our socials from that, and also at the game on Sunday as well. So hoping to bring you more content. I hope you guys have been enjoying all of our content so far at the games. It's been a very, very, very good experience. Now, the first lot of our 6 p.m. games in the UK, 1 p.m. Eastern. For me, you mentioned as well, I found it the hardest game to predict. Commanders going to the Falcons. So I'm going to give you the honours first this time, Keg. Who's
All
going to win
right.
this one?
Very, very narrow, very, very tough game. It's a flip of a coin, really, to be honest. But I'm going reluctantly with the Falcons. Yeah, they're 3-2. Again, showing massive inconsistencies. I don't think they look great on offense, apart from Bijan Robinson, who's an absolute freak. But started the season well, beating us, then beating the Packers, and then beating the Texans. A couple of hard games, like the two that they've lost, the Lions and the Jags. Two tough teams. And the 3 teams that they have beat 3 okay teams, nothing great. Whereas the Commanders only won 2, and they were the Cardinals and the Broncos, arguably 2 of the worst teams in the league. Then a pretty hard run in, apart from the Bears, that probably shouldn't have allowed 40 points against the Bears. But their other 2 losses were the Bills and the Eagles. Like, tough run in for the Commanders. So I don't know. Yeah, I do think maybe given that 2 of their 3 losses have been the Bills and the Eagles, and it is a really, really tough one. So yeah, it is like a flip of a coin, but I'm going to go with a 3-2 Falcons.
Interesting. Now, for me, I've been tossed and turning even during your answer. I'm still unsure. Now, this is for me, I can make a case easy at this point, is the 2 worst starting quarterbacks in the league. I think they both don't really impress me, but who do I think is the lesser of 2 evils? I'm going to give the Commanders the edge. I just think I back Sam Howell more than Desmond to make a pass, because I think both teams are limited when it comes to the pass game in terms of their quarterback. So teams are going to target the run a lot more, which, I think that's ultimately what the Jags did against Falcons. They stopped the run and ultimately stopped the Falcons by just back somehow a little bit more than Desmond Ridder to get it done. So yeah, I'm going to give the Commanders the win in what was our first game we've differed on in terms of predictions. Next one is Soldier Field as the Bears host the Vikings. Keg, who's going to win this one?
For me, I think it'll be tougher than it is. I think right now on paper, it's pretty split. They're both 1-4 teams. But also on paper, coming into the season, you wouldn't have even thought twice about this one. It'd be a Vikings win all day long. And as you mentioned before, without Justin Jefferson, it could be a bit of a slippery slope. Like when you're already 1-4 and you lose probably the best receiver in the league, like your go-to guy, Kirk Cousins' best friend, like you're going to be in for a little bit of a ropey, however long he's out. And I think he's on IR, so he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks. Hopefully, not too much longer for them. So yeah, I do fancy the Vikings. Although that being said, the Bears might be on a little bit of a momentum kick, having put 40 points up against the Commanders last week. So finally got their first win in like 18 months or something like that. So yeah, I think it is going to be a harder game to call. But even without Justin Jefferson, I still just fancy the Vikings. I do just think they're a better oiled team. Really, I think they're just a little bit better put together. I do think the Bears aren't as bad as everyone makes out for them to be. Like I did quite fancy them coming into the season. I think their draft and free agencies and everyone that they've been building, like Justin Fields, giving him a little bit more time to get in. Like I'll give them a lot more credit than I think what most people will. But yeah, then first 4 weeks they did look dreadful, to be fair. So yeah, even without Justin Jefferson, I'm still going to go with the Vikings.
Interesting. Well, I'm going for the Bears purely because Jefferson is out. I think that the Bears have had an extra 3 days as well than the Vikings to prepare for this game. And I like KJ Osborne and I love Addison, but Osborne is the number one, and Addison is still too early in his development. So I just think that they may struggle. I think this season, if it gets the case where they lose the next few games without Jefferson, I think this season can be seen as a write-off. Sadly for them, but I just think the Bears, yeah, I think purely for that extra few days, but also just I think the Bears have DJ Moore and the Vikings haven't got Jefferson. I think the Bears have the only team with a star receiver. So that's my reasoning. I think this game could be actually one of the better ones, but I don't think either defense has really been great so far this year. So I think we could see like a high scoring game, which I think a lot of time you see that. We saw it with the Broncos Commanders a few weeks ago as well. So yeah, I'm going to give Bears the edge, and also their home as well. So that also gives them a little bit of an advantage as well. Next up, though, is the Bengals hosting the Seahawks. Now, I mentioned I think the Bengals could have a great run now and make the playoffs and make it, but I still think they're going to lose this game. I just think that whilst they got the win, it was against the Cardinals. I think the Seahawks are a much better defense, first of all, and I think the offense is way better as well. So I think that's a real test of the Bengals. I think if they win this game, that's a big stride. I think that will be the win more than last week. That will be a catalyst for a big good run. But I think right now I'm still not sure on the Bengals, so I'm going to give the Seahawks a win. How are you seeing it, Keg?
I agree with everything that you've just said there. I did note down that I've got the Bengals to win. Looking at it now, the Seahawks have won their last 3. They're 3-1. The one coming in week 1, then 3 on the bounce. One against the Lions as well, who are 4-1. So that's a pretty good win for the Seahawks against the Lions. Beat the Panthers quite comfortably and the Giants, who are pretty awful as well. But yeah, I've just fancied the Bengals. Like I said before, I just think they've started poorly, and I don't know why. I don't know what's happened. I know Burrow picked up an injury in preseason. He was expected to be out for at least week 1, possibly week 2. So maybe it's just kind of bringing him back, probably just trying to force him back as much as anything. That may be the reason for it, but still a very good team, very good offense. I think it'll eventually click. You said the last win was only against the Cardinals. 34 points. Maybe that's what they needed as a bit of a kick up the arse. And the Seahawks are a very good team. So I think if they do get the win here, that will be the spur on and the kick up the arse, the need to push on and fight for the playoffs. Because pre-season, you might not have even predicted the Bengals to lose as many as 3 games, maybe 4 or 5, and they're already 3 losses down in week 5. So yeah, they need something to turn it around. Otherwise, like the Vikings, this season could be a write-off for them as well if they lose many more games. But yeah, I'm not confident in this one. I am probably swaying a little bit more towards the Seahawks now, but I'm going to stick with me earlier prediction and stick with the Bengals.
Okay, now one team that certainly doesn't need a kick up the arse is the Niners. Is they're currently for me the best team in the league, 5-0, as they host the Browns.
Yeah, that doesn't really need said too much more. Yeah, Niners all day long. loving what they're doing, loving seeing Christian McCaffrey thrive. Like, he's just an absolute beast. Loving seeing him healthy, being able to put points on the board, both running, receiving, absolutely everything. He's a Swiss Army knife player. It brings a tear to my eye to see him do so well, not in a Panthers jersey, to be honest, but he was never going to win anything with us. Like, life's too short. You've got to move on and do well. And the DC as well, Steve Wilkes, who was our interim head coach last year. He's the defensive coordinator over there now. So yeah, it doesn't see the Panthers boys do well. And I love the 49ers. Obviously, the Panthers aren't going to get to the playoffs or win the Super Bowl this year. So 49ers will for sure be my NFC team to root for. So, and then they're playing the Browns. Nah, I don't really give a shit about the Browns, to be honest with you. They're just a bit of a, they're kind of franchise. Like, I supported them during that time of woe, like when they were, was it 1-15, then 0-16, and then bringing through Baker Mayfield and starting to bring things up like Nick Chubb and going through head coaching changes, like, and Myles Garrett. Like, I just wanted them to do so well. Like, I love the underdog. I root for the underdog all day long. And back then, 2017, 2018, I wanted them to win so much, but now fuck them. I don't give I don't care about the Browns. I think the way that they trapped Baker Mayfield and then bringing in Deshaun Watson under that guaranteed money was just absolutely ludicrous. So I hope the 49ers run rings around them all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think ever since they brought in Bill Cosby to their team, I just think that it's it's not a team I've rooted for at all. So yeah. But looking at the Niners, their schedule, I mean, the next few games they've got the Browns, Vikings, Bengals, and Jags, and that's the bye week in between. So really, I think they'll beat the Browns and the Vikings. I think we don't know what the Bengals will be like in a few weeks, but they could easily beat them as well. And the Jags, will beat them with ease. And then they've got the Buccaneers. So I think they could easily go into that. They got quite a tough 3-game stretch of Seahawks, Eagles, and Seahawks again. So I think they could easily go into that, start that in week 12, potentially 10-0. And I think that, and I think if they can go into the next 3 games with a win in all of them, you could potentially see them going to, and I was talking about earlier today on Instagram, you could easily see them going 17-0 with that schedule, because they've only got the Cardinals, Ravens, Commanders, and Rams in their final 4 games after that. So the Niners, I don't think they will. I think they will lose one, probably one of the Seahawks games, if not the Eagles game. But I think if they can get through those 3 games and still be unbeaten, I think that could be potentially what they do.
Yeah. 49ers were one of my teams from the beginning of the season. Like, when I went through my preseason predictions, I posted mine on social media. And I actually had the 49ers to win the Super Bowl is my prediction. It was, I think, out of the NFC, I think it was going to be either them or the Eagles. AFC, I couldn't really make my mind up, so I threw the Bengals in there. I think it was a tough choice between the Bengals and the Bills. I had the Dolphins as an outsider as well. But with the AFC, obviously, I'm not going to be right with the Bengals. I don't see them going to the Super Bowl at all. But 49ers quite easily could, with the momentum they're going on. I think if that's, again, is the NFC Championship game, the 49ers and Eagles, as it was last year, I think it'll be a lot more competitive, a lot more interesting. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to that one. And I also had one comment saying that the 49ers aren't that good. So yeah, I can't wait to repost that one if they do well. So I'm a big fan of the 49ers. I think they'll do well.
I'm not even going to mention what my prediction was. It's probably, looking back now, one that's aged the worst. That's obviously not helped by the Rodgers injury, but to have Jets Vikings, and then that's just looks completely now like one of the worst takes. I think it's
that your Super Bowl prediction.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was also before the Aaron Rodgers injury, and I put £10 on Vikings winning it. I had just feeling about them, but proved to be.
And cash out.
Jets Vikings. The point not making the playoffs either of them at this rate. But the next game is the reason why I brought you on. It's my team against your team. It's the Panthers traveling to South Beach Hard Rock Stadium as they take on the Miami Dolphins. Now, as you'll guess, I'll let you go first. Who's going to win this one?
That's probably as easy as the 49ers one. Yeah, that's got to be the Dolphins, unfortunately. Yeah, I'd like to stake a claim, like fight the cause and that, but yeah, I can't fight this one too hard. Like, yeah, Dolphins, very, very impressive. Like, another one who I've been a fan of pretty much since like the 1920 time when the Dolphins were struggling. Like, I love the way that yous have turned everything around. I think your few free agencies and drafts between like the kind of 19 to 21. I think it's been very, very good. I love Tua. I was a big fan of Miami back in his day, with Jalen Waddle as well, then with Tyreek Hill. The two running backs, just absolute fearful, just so much speed across the offense. I don't know about the defense though. Maybe you can enlighten me a little bit on that. Like, are the Dolphins' defense good? Like, I'm not so sure. Like, they're a little bit sketchy. I think that could be the only thing that kind of like makes. I think they'll go to the playoffs quite easily, but that's where I don't think you'll get to the championship game, because I think the defense will just run a little bit short.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's still definitely, teething problems with a new defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. And I think ultimately now I think he will get it right. But you look at, with the exception of the Broncos game, which again, even that features a, kickoff return for a touchdown and all that. We let in 30 points against the Chargers, 30-ish points. Against the Patriots, we were 17-3 up in the halftime and ended up winning. They got down to, I think it was 2017 or 2014. The defense collapsed second half in that game. And obviously the Bills game let up 14
Bills
points.
was a bad one.
The Giants game was, I think, probably our best defensive performance of the season, but it's against the Giants, and I think, I think we'll have a field day against you guys. I've got us winning as well, but I think certainly against the big teams, as the Bills game showed, maybe a little bit of problems there. But so early on, I'm hoping that we got. I think the Eagles and Chiefs games, I think they're back to back, if not one or two of them within 3 weeks, but. I think those again a big test for our defense. I think if we can show something there, that's a big step for us. But I think, I think right now it's not the best, but still manageable. I think there's definitely worse defenses out there, but I wouldn't back us right now in a big game to rely on our defense. I think the way we'd win games right now is, 30, 40 point shootouts, like a 36-30 or a 54 to 45. Well, I think that's how we win games. I think through our offense, I think that's for me, how we'll win games. But next up,
the Eagles next week as well. That'll be a
tough.
defense.
I'm going to that game. I should have known that was next week. But, that's going to be tough. That's going to be really tough because, I'm certainly not wearing my team colours in that one. I'm certainly staying neutral. But for me, it's concerning in that sense, but I think on our day we can beat any team, but I think that on our day is when will that be? I don't know, but it certainly is. It's good times. I've never seen us be 4-1. Our first time with 4-1, I believe, since 2003. Now I don't know what the stat is in terms of 5-1, but I've never seen us have a good start to the year. And this is the best team I've ever seen us have, the best offense we've ever had. I mean, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the running back, everything you've mentioned before. That team is loaded, and I think it's certainly the most excited I've been watching my team play. But certainly a long way to go. Right, next game we're going to focus on. Before we do that, a few other ones we can quickly skim through. Jags, Colts. I'm going for Jags. How about you, Keg?
Yeah, I think that one might be a closer one than a lot of people might have predicted. But especially with Anthony Richardson being out, then I say that being a Jags win all day.
Absolutely. Saints, Texans. How are you seeing that one?
I was torn on that one, to be honest, and I'd love to give the win to the Texans, obviously with the Saints being a divisional rival, but I actually quite fancy the Texans on this one. I don't think the Saints are as good as what they're making out to be. Put 34 points up against the Patriots last week, but the Patriots are awful. And I think the Texans are a team that's going to take a little while to chug along, but I think CJ Stroud's having a hell of a rookie year. I think, like the Bears, I predicted them to have a good year because I was looking at their draft and their free agency. Like, they've picked up some hell of players. Like, they've got a really, really good roster, to be fair. It's just obviously going to take a lot of time to connect with new coaches and a lot of rookies and younger guys and stuff as well. So, this is a bit of an outside shot. I think the Saints will probably be favourites, but I'm going to take the Texans.
I'm going for Texans as well. I like CJ Stroud. I think he's had a really good start to his life in the NFL. You mentioned the Patriots. They're traveling to Vegas to take on the Raiders. This one, I think it's two, fairly bad teams, but I think the Raiders look good against the Packers, so I'm going to give them the edge, whereas the Patriots have scored 3 points combined 3 points in 2 games. It's not looked good for them. How are you seeing that one, Keg?
Yeah, completely agree. Unless there's just a lot of scores because both defenses are just as bad as each other, then I say this being a pretty boring game, one that I'm not particularly that interested in because, yeah, they are two pretty poor teams, Patriots especially. But yeah, Raiders, really good win against the Packers, to be fair. So that could be the momentum that they need to see them over the line. So yeah, I'm taking the Raiders.
And then 3 more games we're going to quickly run through. Cardinals, Rams, Eagles, Jets, and Lions, Bucks. I'm going for wins for the Rams, the Eagles, and the Lions. How about you, Keg?
Yeah, I've got it exactly the same. Yeah, Lions over the Bucks, Rams over the Cardinals, and the Eagles over the Jets. Yeah.
Fantastic. Then now we head into Sunday Night Football. Buffalo Bills, who calls for London last week, they take on the New York Giants. Another primetime game in the state of New York or New Jersey. I think this is pretty easy. I think the Bills. I think the Giants are awful, and the Bills.
Yeah.
They did lose, but they had good moments. They had a good ending to the game. If you excuse the Diggs touchdown, I think they showed some signs in that game. I think they were the best team in the AFC a week ago. So yeah, I'm going to give the Bills the win.
Yeah, I've got that as well. Yeah, I will say that they were one of my favorite AFC teams coming into the season. But yeah, they've lost 2 games to the Jets and the Jags, who are good, very good teams, but not the best teams in the league. The only impressive win really has been against the Dolphins, 48 points against the Dolphins. Other teams have beat other Raiders and the Commanders. So yeah, they're not really impressing me overly much this season, to be honest with you. I think like the Bengals, might struggle in the playoffs. Well, I think they'll get there, but yeah, like how far they go, I don't know. Like I don't fancy them to be the championship game as much as I did at the beginning of the season. But with that being said, yeah, coming up against the Giants, who are terrible, yeah, I think they'll still take the win here.
I was trying to think whether the Bills or Vikings are more like Tottenham in terms of always having these amazing players but never actually winning anything. I know Spurs are top of the league
Yeah.
right now, but that I don't think that will last come
Nah, definitely not.
time. But I think the Bills, I think the Bills and Vikings definitely have that are the most like Tottenham, I think. And it's ironic that the Bills played in Tottenham just a few days ago. Our final game is Monday Night Football. Yet again, another primetime game involving the Cowboys as they travel to LA to take on the Chargers.
Yeah, I've got the Cowboys on this one. It was a little bit of a thinker. I didn't really think too hard about it. I do quite like the Chargers, but again, another very inconsistent team. Their only 2 wins this season have been against the Vikings and the Raiders. Scored a lot of points against the Dolphins, though. Close game there in week 1, 36-34. Then lost to the Titans, who aren't that great. So, yeah, it's looking a bit bleak for the Chargers. I just don't know if the head coach is the right guy to take them forward. Decent team. Like I always think they should have been better than what they were. Like I was really, really high on them last year. But yeah, it just didn't really come too far through it. And Cowboys are a good team. So yeah, that's why I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, I've got the Cowboys as well. I don't like Staley at all. I've been very vocal on my thoughts on Brandon Staley in this podcast the last maybe 6 to 12 months. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. And I think the Cowboys, I know they lost last week quite badly, but it was against probably the best team in the league right now. So they've got probably definitely the best team right now in the league. So there's no, even though they got massively humbled, it's not an embarrassment to lose to the Niners. So I think they'll go back to winning ways. They've had some good wins this year, so we'll put up a lot of points anyway. So yeah, I back the Cowboys to get the win, and yeah, I think they will do that on Monday Night Football. But yeah, that is the end of our predictions. We've got 3 different predictions, but all the rest are the same. So 3 teams that are different. So I went for the Commanders over the Falcons. Keg went Falcons over Commanders. I went Bears over Vikings. Keg went Vikings over Bears. And I went Seahawks over Bengals. And Keg went for Bengals over Seahawks. Otherwise, we've both gone for wins for the Chiefs, Ravens, Niners, Dolphins, Jags, Texans, Raiders, Rams, Eagles, Lions, Bills, and the Cowboys. But yeah, thank you for coming on, first of all, Keg.
Yeah, not a problem, mate. Thank you very much for having me on. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
No problem at all. Don't forget to check out Keg's work, both on his own content and also his Panthers Magpie channel as well. So do check that out as well. If you want Pacific, Geordie-based Panthers talk, you know where to find them on there as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, Week 6 preview. I've been your host, Andy. This has been Keg, and we will see you guys next time.